Alright, we're back. Picked up this little bike, a picture from actual listing, and I thought it was pretty sick. And the listing said, my bike nerd partner got this, but it's been sitting in my stairwell unused, so we're selling it. So yeah, from one bike nerd to another. So yeah, strange little bike. It's a 1985 Schwinn Enduro, and it has 22-inch wheels, kind of cross between a BMX and a mountain bike. You can see it's got the old grips and the Dicom levers. Friction, old Shimano friction shifter. Yeah, just a 5-speed. And yes, I don't think it's in too bad a condition really. Just a little bit of rust here and there. Seeing it's from over 30 years ago, it's seemed to have lasted pretty well. You can see the stem's been raised up a little bit, the front reflector's been off, and then the brake cable is all rusted through, so I'll probably switch that out. Got that cool head badge too. You can see the serial number on the head tube. Got these old school Dicom brakes, canti brakes. You can see the pads in really good condition as well. Tires still got their tread, so pretty decent. And then yeah, this hub kind of rusted through, a lot of rust on there, so hopefully I'll be able to get some of that off. CMC rims, 22 by 1.75. Duro tires. These are 22 by 1.75 as well. So yeah, real strange size. They don't really make too many 22-inch bikes anymore. And then you can see this, the Queen decal. I don't know what that brand is, never seen that before, but I'll be taking that off. And then the little hanger from the seat post to the brakes again, Dicom brakes. You can see there's some rust on the rim. Yeah, spring type for the Dicom brakes, and then you can see the cassette fully rusted through, 5-speed cassette. The teeth look pretty good, in pretty good condition, so I think it'll be fine. And then just a Shimano hanger, rear derailleur, and then you got this chain ring that has a chain guard kind of welded onto it, stock, and then these BP pedals, old pedals, spin alright. Over here we got a cool little kickstand. I think I'm gonna restore this and keep this on as well. It's nice having a little kickstand on there. See how we go. And then yeah, just the old American BB with the BMX cranks. You got this Yapong snapback sticker. So yeah, I don't know if someone imported this bike over, because Schwinn is I think a Chicago company, and yeah, this bike was made in Japan for Schwinn in Chicago. Hence probably all the Japanese parts. But yeah, nice little bike. So yeah, we'll see what we can do with it. So yeah, first thing first, got the good old bug spray out, spraying the whole bike down. So yeah, in the ad it said it was sitting for a while, so usually when it sits for a while there's a lot of spiders. So yeah, just make sure you be careful about that, especially if you live in Australia. But yeah, brushed it down, brushed all the spider webs off, and then usually I just let it air out for a little bit before I work on it. Here, taking off the pedals, so these are half-inch pedals versus 9/16. And I think this bike was probably positioned as a kid's bike, meant for a kid's bike, just because of the little shorter cranks as well. Obviously, the smaller size bike, that kind of points to a kid's bike too. But yeah, I'm gonna do it up, see how it rides. I think I could turn it into something pretty cool. You see a lot of those mini velo bikes around, and people tend to enjoy those. So I think 22-inch wheel is kind of a good fun size as well. Here, just taking off the rear mech, just snapping off the cables. I don't think I'm going to reuse any of these cables, but because they're silver, sometimes I like to keep them just in case. You will notice the brakes, they have a hang cable, so these old brake cables make good hanger cables as well. Taking off the wheel, bolt on, axle, and then you can see the old school rear mech, how that hangs on when it's got with the semi-horizontal dropouts, and then you can see how this little cable goes under BB with a little guide as well. Don't forget those ferrues coming off as well, taking off the bottle cage. I think this bottle cage is pretty done, pretty rough looking. But yeah, that came out no problem. Taking off the reflectors. Yeah, I think you might have noticed I actually don't run any reflectors on all my bikes, just because, I don't know, I feel like most of them are kind of tacky or they haven't been designed that well, so yeah, it looks a little bit cleaner with that, in my opinion, as well. Probably less safe, but here taking off the canti brakes, and then yeah, no problems here at all. Everything came off real easy. I think this bike, I don't think anyone's ridden it a lot. Actually, the lady I sold it from, she said it had like a flat tire, but she thought it had a puncture or something. But when I got home and pumped it up, yeah, it held air, so kind of lucked out on that too. So I think it's just been, yeah, someone just kind of left it, and maybe someone else bought it and they just left it too, just have no use for it. Here just took off all the cables, and here just taking off the brake levers and stuff like that. You can see it's raining outside. Yeah, monkey shred always works in the rain, so yeah, I figure I can do that too. Try not to slack off. But yeah, unloosen those, and then the grips were on pretty tight, so I had to loosen the brake levers to get them out of the way, and then use a little spoke here with WD-40 and spray it down, and that made getting off the grips a little bit easier. Still took a bit of effort, but yeah, once that WD-40 swooshes around there, you can just slide it straight off, and then everything else came off pretty simple. Here, taking off the stem, yeah, this was pretty straightforward too. This is probably the best way. Put your knees on the wheel and then wiggle it off. And then here, taking off the headset. Yeah, you can use a headset tool. I just have a shifter, so I just use a shifter. And then took off the hanger, taking off the back hanger as well. I did check the seat post with the lady to make sure it wasn't stuck in there, because yeah, in the past it's been real hard to get it out if you do have one stuck. So yeah, it's good that it came out pretty easily. Easy enough. It was still kind of tough, but little WD-40 again, or penetrating oil if you have it. That works a treat. You can see it's 25.4, so it's old school sizing, and then 22.2 as well. Both of those are made in Japan. Schwinn, I think, is the brand. And then here, first time taking off American BB. I just looked online how to do it. It seemed pretty simple. You just it's just like similar to a ball and bearing bottom bracket on a road bike or mountain bike. It kind of acts in the same way, but yeah, you just undo the washer, make sure you're undoing it the right way, and then it has this little kind of tension cup, and then you can, I need to tap mine off with a little screwdriver and a hammer just to loosen it. But yeah, once I loosened it, it came off real easy. Kind of easy. You can see I need a WD-40, and yeah, I don't know if there's like a proper tool for that where you can press on both sides of the cup. And then here is the one-piece crank coming out, and then yeah, these big ball bearings and that big bottom bracket, American BB, taking off the kickstand here, no issues there. And yeah, all the stuff came off the bike relatively easy. Yeah, the wheels came off, no problem. And yeah, that's basically it. So yeah, I got all the stuff off, pretty stoked about it. Nothing was seized, nothing was too crazy, nothing was damaged. So the restoration will be pretty good. You can reuse all those parts. And here you can see the frame, pretty cool frame, definitely has that old 80s vibe to it. And you can see I keep everything in like a tub. A good tip, like if you're working on bikes on and off, you can just keep it in a tub, keep everything together, and then like put it away if it's raining real heavy. And yeah, all your parts will be together and you won't lose anything. Here, yeah, just taking off the decal, just use hair dryer and just put it on for a minute. Just be careful when you're taking off because it can get real hot, especially if the frame is steel, it'll heat up. But yeah, these the Queen decals came off real easy. It did leave a little bit of a ghosting, but I'm going to try and clean it up. And then there was this Cali sticker, which was like a nightmare to get off. Every time I try to peel it, it would just flake. And then I end up just taking a razor blade to it, try to get most of it off. But yeah, this is what it looks like with all the decals off. There's a snapback sticker there and the Cali sticker there all came off. And we got this nice fire engine red, looking pretty sweet. And then yeah, just basically spray it down with a light detergent mix. And then WD-40 for the hard stains. And then, yeah, really, you can clean it as much as you want, how much effort you want to put in, or how clean you want it. But yeah, it turned out pretty good, I think. Cleaned out these cups. These cups were actually, the bigger cups I find a lot easier to clean than the smaller cups that are in other bottom brackets, which was a nice change. And then here, when I was taking off the headset, it was kind of real hard to get this washer cone thing off. But I just kept going forward and back, and eventually it came off. But yeah, I realized as I was taking off, some of the threads were damaged. I'll show you in a second, but here, yeah, just taking off the BB out. The BB was completely gunked in grease. Grease is all hardened up, so taking all that off. Yeah, just cleaning the bottom cup here, a little WD-40 and paper towel. And then yeah, you can see the threads here are actually kind of a little bit all busted up. Sometimes this happens on old headset where the washer has turned, the little divot has turned into the threads. So yeah, when you're taking those washers off, just be like super careful. But yeah, this one was busted up, and then I had to use a little razor blade and just tap all the spare metal out. And then this is the cleanest I could get it. Just get all that metal out, make sure it spins properly now. And then just chuck some grease on there, and then basically just like re-ram the threads, make sure it's nice and smooth now. So that's all good. So fix that up. That was the kind of first real thing, but yeah, it's not gonna change much. Wasn't a big deal. And here's cleaning out cups. You can see all the grease is gunked up as well. Yeah, WD-40 again, and paper towel. Wipe it off. You might notice there's some rust on the cups here, and then you got the paint right next to it. So sometimes what you want to do is put a piece of plastic down, and then you can actually use WD-40 and the brush to scrub the rust off, but then protect the paint. It also depends on what type of paint you use and what type of brush you use to scrub it. But yeah, basically just do the best you can without damaging the paint. Here I know like a lot of old BMX dudes always use foil for their chrome plated stuff. So I decided to give it a try to see how it works. It works alright. It's kind of like, works like sandpaper a little bit. And then here I just showed you the before and after. But yeah, just basically WD-40, a brush, and then a little bit of foil, and all that rust came off, and that's looking pretty good as well. Here I realized I didn't have a wrench big enough to take this chain ring off, so I decided just to clean it as is and Hopefully, yeah, I don't need to take it off to kind of clean it all up, but yeah, if I had a bigger wrench, I'd definitely take it off. I think it just unwinds just like any other chain ring. But yeah, just cleaned it up briefly, just got all that gunk off, and I think I'm just going to dip the whole thing in evaporust once I find a big enough container. Yeah, you can see, here's the cassette, all rusted up. The hub was rusted up. This hub is really rusted up. And it's actually a Suzy hub, so yeah, another, I think, yeah, Japanese part. But you can see the rim actually cleaned up pretty easily with a little bit of WD-40 and a wire brush. You can use a nylon brush as well, or foil. I think I just use a combination of all three. For tougher stains or tougher rust marks, you can only clean up so much. You can see it's like pitted the chrome. Sometimes the WD-40 and foil helps fill in some of the pitting, but yeah, if it's pitted at the end of the day, you can only do so much. It's kind of, you can't restore it back to completely new. Well, I don't know how anyway. But yeah, cleaned up the rim. Things looking pretty good. Probably keep working on the rim for a little bit. I actually had to order this special tool, the freewheel tool. I didn't have a freewheel tool, but I decided to get one anyway. And I had to use a breaker bar for my bike stand to get it off. It was on super tight. But yeah, having more leverage and using a breaker bar really helps. And yeah, that came off. Here's the remnants of the dork disc, which I just took off. And then I'm going to dunk this in evaporust and see what happens again. Yeah, see, there's the evaporust. Evaporust just, it's a rust remover that's pretty environmental friendly. So yeah, it usually does a pretty good job. So we'll see how that goes. And then here, I thought what I'll do is, because there's a lot of rust on the rims, I wanted to buff it on the drill press I have. So I decided to take these ties and tubes off to see to make that a little bit easier. But yeah, the tubes and ties are actually like pretty hard to take off. I think maybe because they've tightened up a little bit, but yeah, got them off in the end. So yeah, here you can see with the drill press, the piece is actually like a slight sanding piece, but it's pretty soft. I've kind of worn it down so it's yeah, it doesn't scratch or anything. But yeah, you can see that really helped. I just did the whole rim. I didn't film the whole thing because it's probably just pretty boring. But yeah, you can see the after, all the bits I cleaned. Here, cleaning the hub. I'd say like the hubs of a bike are probably the hardest thing to clean, just because getting access to it, all the spokes in the way, and trying to brush in between a tight gap is really hard. But you can see most of the rust came off. It took a lot of effort, but it came off. And then this front one was a mission as well. You can see I'm just dripping WD-40 in a container and then just brushing it. But yeah, yeah, this took a lot of effort, and I think the rust was kind of pitting the chrome underneath anyway, so I decided maybe I'll just try to soak it in the evaporust somehow, save myself some trouble. Here, taking off the axles. When you take off axles, just be careful, make sure you count the bearings, make sure you don't lose any bearings. I put it on top of a towel or a rag, just so you don't lose anything. And then here, I was able to kind of like brush the spokes up a little bit, and then yeah, clean inside the cups. But you can still see some of the rust on the hub there. So I'm gonna try to soak that, because it ended up being so impossible just to scrub around there, just because all the spokes were in the way. I couldn't get good leverage. And then I was also so sick of scrubbing it. I was like, maybe I just do it in the evaporust. And then you can see I'm just using a strawberry container, and then just covering up where I can, and then putting that towel on top so the vapor rust doesn't evaporate away, because you can reuse it. And then just let that to soak, and while I was leaving that to soak, I cleaned off the headset bearings and all the headset cups and stuff, just with WD-40 again and a wire brush. So that's looking pretty good. And then at this point, I was sick of having like the fork and the frame separate. I didn't want parts everywhere, so I just wanted to install the headset first. A little bit of grease on the bottom, and then grease on top as well. Sometimes I also put grease inside the cage bearings, just to load them up a little bit more, make sure they're covered. But I think I used enough here that it will kind of spread out. And then same thing on the top. Make sure your bearings are facing the right way up. You'll know when you kind of spin it which way they should go. Or you can just, look it up. And then here, this is for putting pressure on the bearings, adjusting the pressure, and everything fit pretty well. Oh yeah, I had to run this hanger upside down because it didn't stick out far enough. So I ended up just going with that, running it upside down. Hopefully that's okay. Here's coming back from the vapor rust. You can see it did really good. All the rust came off, and all I had to do was leave it overnight. And then usually I protect with WD-40, but for these wheels, I was like, the rust probably went so deep, so I decided to use that rust converter. And I ended up painting rust converter on all the wheels, and then wiping it down afterwards once it's kind of done its thing. And then you can still see I need to clean this rim. So one rim still left to clean. But yeah, this is after it's cleaned, you can see there's some pitting on the rims, but overall, pretty stoked with how these wheels turned out. I think they came a long way. Also took mad effort to do it, so I don't know if I'm just happy with how it turned out. And then here, getting my kid to help me clean the tires. And I picked up these MKS pedals. But yeah, when I spun them, they were kind of tight for some reason. You can feel the bearings grinding on the pedals. So I don't know if they come new like this. I got these secondhand or like new secondhand. But I don't know if MKS pedals come like that. But I'm going to try to readjust these bearings once I get a second. But yeah, pretty good. I think the chrome pedals will look cool. The silver pedals will look cool. And then here I got this rear mech, a suntour rear mech. I just wanted to upgrade the rear mech on this to match the bike a little bit better. And I thought this rear mech was really cool. It has like that straight parallelogram, and like you can release the cage as well. So I thought that was real cool. And then putting the tires on, just like that. So yeah, all the tires and the rims completely cleaned. Almost done with the wheels. I think I probably spent the most time on these wheels of the restoration. But yeah, now I had to clean the cups inside and also put in new bearings. And then just a note: make sure you keep track of the bearing size. So the bigger bearings are in the back, and then the smaller bearings in the front. There's usually a few different sizes for bearings, but just take this into account when you're either ordering new bearings or taking them out, just so you know which one's which. And then here, just cleaning all the axle and the parts. You can see the pitted bearing on the right, so the bearings are definitely not in good condition, so I'm going to replace new ones. And here, just taking off all the parts, going to clean these all up. So I'm sorting out which parts I'm going to put in the vapor rust and which parts I'm not. Just using little trays, little food trays. Oh, and this was the shocking thing: when I took out the cassette, I left it in there for like two or 3 days, and I forgot about it. And then when I took it out, it was completely black. and I thought I could just wash it and the black would come off, but it kind of stayed black. But yeah, knowing that, I decided to just soak these and keep an eye on these, make sure I didn't soak these for more than 24 hours. I don't know if it's because the evaporust I've used so many times that it's dyeing stuff now, but it tends to react different on steel versus aluminum versus plated chrome, of course. So yeah, all a learning process. But yeah, basically protect the cassette and cleaning out these bearings from the bottom bracket. Just using a wire brush and one of those seal pick tools that I got from Butte Bike. Real handy to have. That's looking clean, and this is about just a few hours. And when I took it out, I just wanted to see if there was any reaction. But you can see the steel here is starting to turn black. Usually you can wipe it off. And you can see there's like a line here of where the water or where evaporust line went up to. So I'm going to see if that comes off. Here you can see the difference between steel and aluminum, see how it's kind of a little bit darker. So I'm going to try to clean it off, see if it comes off. Just using WD-40 again. Usually what you do with evaporust is you rinse it with water and then you protect with WD-40. And then here's kind of what it looks like, the finished product. Doesn't look too bad, it looks pretty cool. You can see I got rid of that line off the parallelogram thing. But yeah, pretty happy with it. Just gave it a little bit of a darker look. And then here, cleaning off the bars, you can see the bars, they did have little weathering spots and also some rust. So I decided just to get the rust off, I use a little bit of foil here as well. Yeah, and that came off pretty easy. So yeah, next thing you can see, this is the cassette. So all the rust has come off it, and it's pretty much completely dry. So I'm pretty happy with the look of the cassette. And then here's the other parts. You can see, I think my vapor rust is probably towards the end. I still have another batch, but you can see it works on some parts, doesn't work on others. Or the other parts probably just need more time. But overall, pretty good. I think all these parts came out pretty sweet. You can see all the rust completely came off the axle, and yeah, the levers, pretty clean. And yeah, just give them a rinse, and then yeah, just sort them out in these trays. These are little food trays, and just give them a spray of WD-40 to prevent them from flash rusting again. Yeah, again with the little trays, it's nice to have those little compartments to keep all the parts separate, and if you need to kind of like move around and stuff, you can pick up the whole tray and go. Here you can see the ball bearings. This is a 1/4 inch for the rear hub, and yeah, you just pack it up with grease. Make sure you remember how many bearings to put in. I'm pretty sure this was 9 bearings. And then yeah, grease up the cup as well and slide it in. You might also have noticed that I've kept one side of this axle in the same position when I'm taking off the wheel, so you don't have to worry about re-dishing the wheel on the axle. Yeah, that's a good little tip someone gave me when I was first surfacing wheels. And then here, yeah, just the same with the other side. Just pack it up with grease. You can always wipe the excess off. And then yeah, just put the nut on. And then for the front, 3/16 of an inch ball bearings. And you can see this axle, I didn't do that tip where I left the space in the right spot, but basically you just gotta guess where it is and then just readjust after you put everything in. So I try to put it in the middle where I see fit. Just kind of guess at this point. Make sure it's even on both sides, and then yeah, you put the nut on and tighten it against each other, and that will fix that spot. Here, just putting on the bearings, all the bearings in, fill it up with grease, same thing again. and then yeah, just measuring where the axle needs to be, and then do the same on the other side. Put the bearings in, wind it down, and the next thing to do, what you need to do is make sure the pressure is right on the hub and the bearings itself. So you want it tight enough where the bearings kind of spin freely, but they're not so loose where the axle moves. This usually takes a bit, and I did this for the front and rear hub, but once you get it dialed, your wheels should feel pretty solid and spin smooth at the same time. So yeah, finally done with these wheels, pretty stoked on that. I think the wheels, yeah, probably took the most time. I think I said that before, but pretty happy to get it done. And then here, putting on the cassette, I just put a little bit of grease, and then you just basically screw it on, and then use a chain wrench to tighten it. Or also tighten on the as you pedal as well, but I did up decent. Here, chucking the wheels on. I think the bike looks cool already, just with the wheels on, with the red and the cleaned up rims. And then here, just putting on this rear mech on. You gotta slide it back into the semi-horizontal dropouts, and it has like a little plate on the other side where my finger's holding it, and it screws in with like a screwdriver. So yeah, make sure you install this correctly. And then for this derailleur, you can just push it up and it'll hold there, and then you can drop it. You can drop in your wheel, and then just make sure your wheel is straight within the chain stays, and then tighten it up, and it should be good. Here you can see how the chain ring's going, the evaporust. But yeah, I think I really need to clean my evaporust. It's kind of getting all gunky. And then here, I'm going to service these pedals. I just use a little bit of a rubber tubing, and then I just use this clamp because I don't have that cap tool, so I'd have to do it this way. The caps aren't too tight, so just be careful when you loosen it, and then you won't mark it or anything. But yeah, I was able to get this off no problem. And then this bearing system basically works the same way as the hub. It'll have like a nut pushing onto the cone spacer, and then you just need to adjust it so once again it doesn't have like tons of play, but still spins like super smooth without it grinding. So yeah, and then another annoying thing is with this, I had to fit my tool in this way, I had to fit a shifter in this way, and then I need another shifter to hold it. So it was kind of a little bit tricky for this MKS pedal, but eventually I was able to do it. And then it was on really tight too, this nut, for some reason. I don't know if it tightened just from being stored for so long, but yeah, it was super tight. But yeah, you can see here I'm just spinning it, checking it for play, and then you gotta tighten the nut accordingly. Sometimes when you tighten the nut, it's gonna tighten the cone spacer inside as well. So you just gotta go back and forth, make sure you get the right tightness for yourself. Once you got it going good, it goes pretty well. You can also put extra grease in there, but these were pretty greased up and they were working fine, so I didn't put any more grease in. And you just tighten the cap, and then I did the same thing with the other pedal, both spinning well and no play. Here, just cleaning up the seatpost, once again using that drill press bit. Made pretty light work of this. Yeah, pretty simple. There wasn't any rust at all on the seatpost, so I just kind of buffed it up. And then same with the stem, buffed up the stem. Pretty good. And then putting the seat post in, you can see I had to kind of wedge out the little clamp area with the tool. And just put a little bit of grease and push it in. And then put on the seat post bolt with a little hanger. You can actually see that bolt in the bolt I'm tightening and the bolt that goes through is a little darker as well. I think the evaporust made it a little bit darker. But yeah, no biggie, you can hardly even tell. Looks part of it anyway. Yeah, and I got this BMX style seat. It looked a little bit different in pictures, so when I opened it I was a little bit surprised with the shape. But yeah, it's not too bad. I think it still goes with the bike. I think it's still pretty cool, kind of fits the era as well. Here you can see how the chainring's going. Yeah, it's going alright. Looks pretty crusty. But yeah, still soaking that. I think I might do the rest by hand here at this point, but it did get rid of all the rust in other areas. I think it's looking pretty clean. Yeah, looking pretty good, I think. So yeah, I just used a brush and a WD-40 to get rid of the rest, and that worked pretty well. Would have been way easier if I could take the chainring off, but yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do. But yeah, that's looking good. Gonna give that a proper wipe down and a clean. Here, putting on the bottom bracket. Yeah, just grease it up again, make sure your bearings are facing the right way. You can see here I'm putting grease inside these cages here because these cages are quite big. Just to make sure that it's getting greased up. And then, yeah, just grease over the top. Putting in this chain ring and crank arm on. Looking pretty shiny. And then yeah, doing on the same on the other side. In hindsight, probably should have greased it up first. And then this crank arm kept falling off when I was trying to install it, so I ended up having to use like just to tie it on to give myself an extra hand. Yeah, a little bit clumsy on this bottom bracket design, but ended up working. Couldn't imagine doing this with loose bearings, so it would be really fussy. And then put in the spacer, and then the nut, and then yeah, same thing again. This is how you tighten it. It's the same as like a hub, or the other thing that we did. I can't remember what it was. The pedal, yeah. But basically, you want to tie it so there's no play, but then you want it to spin freely without it grinding as well. So yeah, a little bit of back and forth with this. You gotta like press the spacer against the nut, tighten the nut, adjust the spacer, make sure it's the right tightness after you're done. Takes a little bit of fiddling around, but once you get it, then it's kind of set. And you can see it's still raining. I think it rained all this week when I was trying to do a bunch of stuff on the bike. But yeah, wasn't crazy. Using the old shifter again, give it a little bit of a turn. But yeah, that's looking good. And cleaning out the stem a little bit, bottom of the stem. You can see got rid of the rust on the nut as well. And then yeah, just putting the stem in, grease it up, tighten it up. And putting the bars on. Almost put these on the wrong way for some reason. Don't know why. But yeah, you can just kind of slide them on. Originally I was going to upgrade the bars and the stem, but yeah, I upgraded like so much stuff already. I think I might do that at a later date. Here, putting on the brakes, just a little bit of grease again, and it has, I think the trickiest thing about this is the spring, but yeah, this is how it goes. If you have like a photo, it's way easier. But the good thing about these cantis is you can actually unattach the spring to kind of install the brake pads, and then that gives no tension on that little cantilever brake bit. so it makes things way easier having to be able to decide whether you want the tension on the brake or not when you're setting them up. Here, putting them on the back, same thing on the back here. Just make sure they just spring back like that. And here I ended up taking this apart, just an old friction shifter, and cleaning it up, and I was going to run it, but I ended up deciding to use one of my Suntour thumb shifters just to give it a little bit of better feel, and also because I upgraded the rear. Clean this out and I'll save this one for another build. But yeah, it's actually pretty simple construction. Just the screw on top tightens it and adjusts the friction, and then just it pulls on the cable. Here what I'm doing is cleaning the brake pads. Got to make sure this dish is really clean before I start cleaning the brake pads, because you don't want grease and stuff in your brake pads. And I'm just using brake cleaner, just car brake cleaner, and I'm actually just using it on those little rod things. I didn't end up cleaning the brake pads themselves because I thought they were so clean already. I didn't need to clean them more. And then also because we did so much work on the rims, cleaning them, and grease, WD-40, all that stuff, the rust converter, I decided to put some brake cleaner on all the rims and just clean off all the rims to make sure they don't squeak when I put the new brake pads on, or the old brake pads on. But yeah, basically just put them on and line them up, make sure the pads press against the rim, and then we can start installing the cables. But yeah, I was pretty happy with the bike at this point. It's looking pretty good, pretty hyped on it. Reminds me of kind of like an old school BMX vibe, especially from that era as well. And I decided to pick up these grips, these AMI grips, or AMI or AME grips. I don't know what the proper, how people say it, but I got them. I got them from a BMX store. But they were real sick. I really liked the shape of them, and kind of just like the pattern on them. And it has a little thing for your fingers as well. Here I'm just aligning them up to make sure this the Suntour shifter clears the flange, and yeah, it was able to clear the flange, so it's no problem. One thing about these grips were really hard to put on, or harder than normal, so I just used water, and then I sprayed water on the inside of the grip, and then yeah, just shake out the excess water, and then you just basically just press it in. I don't know, I think the diameter must be like slightly smaller, but they end up going on there. It just took a bit of effort. Just bang it on. Yeah, just different from the more modern grips that I've put on before. But yeah, no, once these go on, they're not coming off, or they're not moving. But yeah, basically you put them on and just make sure that little bar thing on the grip is aligned to where you want your fingers to go, and make sure it's nice and straight. And then yeah, that's it. Same on the other side. I think they look like super good. I'm pretty happy with these grips. They feel really good too. And here, just tightening on the brake levers, and then the Suntour shifter. You actually have to take the top bit off to tighten it onto the bar, and then you got to put the shifter lever itself back on. And then here, yeah, just testing the position. So yeah, that feels pretty good. And here's how it looks. I think that's looking great. Yeah, just a little close up of the grips there. And then here, I noticed sometimes when I'd move the handlebars, the stem would move. And then when I took it apart, I realized the stem had been a little bit mangled at the bottom. I'm not sure why. So yeah, I just had to tap out some of the metal so the wedge would fit in. But yeah, after I did that, the stem worked great. So yeah, just putting it back in. Of course, don't forget to grease. I've already greased it up. There it was, nice and snug. Just give it a tighten up. Make sure it's straight. Sit on the bike and then look down the bars to make sure it's aligned. And then here, just measuring cables. Just make sure, you have freedom of movement when you turn the wheel. And then usually, yeah, a good tip is just to cut longer. If you're unsure, just cut a little bit longer and then size it up, and you can keep trimming it down. And then same with the rear mac here. Make sure the rear mac is in the right position before you cut. And then you guys clean up the cables after you cut as well. Sometimes you use a file, sometimes you use a spoke or a seal pick tool if you have it, just to open it up. And yeah, that's basically it. Start feeding the gear cable through, and because it's friction, there's not too much to set up, you just pull it tight, and then yeah, you can see it's working already. Here, putting on the brake cables, same deal. Make sure it's a good length. Usually I do it on the long side, and then there's these little bits from the old brake cables, so don't forget about those because they belong to the brake. And yeah, put those on. Putting on a little bit of a bike lube here, synthetic bike lube, to help the cable slide a bit better and protect them from water. And then yeah, you can see I'm just doing the rest with the cables, other brake cable, feeding it through. The upside down hanger again, but yeah, wasn't too much of a problem. And then here, putting on the brake pads. Once again, yeah, you just got to make sure they're flush. You can see I've unclipped them, so I was able to line up the brake pads real easy. And then here, just putting on the hanger cable. I end up using the old brake cables for this, so yeah, good to save them. And then I find the easiest way is just to put the hanger on first and then slide the cable through, and then yeah, you can tighten up the cable. Should work pretty well. Make sure your wheel clears the brake pads, and you're good. You can always adjust the brakes as you see fit after you do that initial setup, but yeah, getting it all on and having making the micro adjustments is a little bit easier than trying to do everything at once. And then here, same with the back, you can see I unclipped the canti brakes again, so I can line up the pads, and then putting on the hanger on first, and then sliding the straddle cable across using an old brake cable. And that's looking good too. Yeah, no squeaks because I cleaned it up with brake cleaner. Alright, so putting on the chain. I think we're almost there with the bike now. Putting on the chain. Like to give the chain a quick clean. If it's real sticky, you can see it's pretty sticky. And I just use this smooth lube cleaning. I've been using this for every chain since I got the cleaner, and it's working real well. Makes it real easy, like a 5-minute job. That would take like way longer if you didn't have like a proper cleaner. So yeah, stoked on that. And then yeah, just give it a rinse, make sure it's nice and dry. And then don't forget the quick link either. So yeah, just dry it off. And then I was unsure on the length of this chain because it has like a little bit of different derailleur, so I just wanted to size it the best I could just by tension. So it's probably a little bit longer than it should be, but it seems to be working pretty well for now, so we'll see how this goes. I could always shorten it in the future, that's not a problem. So I just want to run it like this first. Alright, so the gears were running pretty good, going up and down, but when it went to the highest cog, it would just take a second before it would switch. So yeah, what I decided to do was just fix the limit screws a little bit. So I'm just using the high limit screw. You can see I need to push that a little bit to the right to make it just drop down a tiny bit quicker. And then I think I just gave it a couple turns. Yeah, maybe one full turn. And I think that's all that needed, was to pull that cog over a little bit. And then you can see now it switches through all gears real good, nice and quick. That's working well. snipping off the cables now. Last thing, basically, putting all the cable ends on. No real method to here, just make sure that pull on them, make sure they're not falling off the cable. Things looking nice and clean. Putting on the pedals. Make sure you grease them up, put them on the right way, make sure you're turning the right way when you're tightening them up. I think the silver pedals look pretty good with the cranks as well. And then one last thing, just putting some smooth lube, chain lube on here, just because I cleaned the chain. So yeah, ideally you want this to sit for 24 hours to really let it soak into rollers, and then yeah, you're good to go. So that was the last thing, and here's the final bike. Alright, that's the video. Hope you liked it. Yeah, super stoked on this bike. Really fun to ride, just to kind of burn around on. Probably won't do any jumps or anything like this, but yeah, loving the old kind of 80s BMX vibe. I think it kind of looks like a timepiece in history. Nice to be able to kind of restore it to pretty decent condition. So yeah, the next thing for this bike is I'm gonna make a little crate on the front, like ET style. I think that'd be pretty sick. Just so I can use it as a little cargo bike or something like that. And yeah, stay tuned for that one. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks to Mikey, Ryan, and David for your donations. Thank you to people that bought stickers. Stickers all sold out at the moment, but I will make some new stuff soon, so stay tuned for that. Crumbworks in Japan has stocked some of my stuff that I've sold out on, so if you really want it, you can hit them up. And shout out to Boot Bike for all the tools, super helpful. Put all the links in the description. And yeah, once again, thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.